They asked for help, and the warning signs were treated like noise. By the time anyone believed them, the clock had already run out. The most frightening part is how ordinary the first mistake looked.
Number 12. Rory Staunton. In late March 2012, Rory Staunton cut his arm in a Queen's gym class. He was 12. Within days, the scrape had become an entry point for bacteria. Rory was vomiting. He had fever, severe leg pain, mottled skin, and low blood pressure. You can see the sepsis pattern forming in plain sight. He was seen by a pediatrician, then at NYU Langone, but the emergency department did not recognize it. Blood tests later showed a high lactate and an abnormal white blood cell count, warning signs of serious bacterial infection, and those results were not acted on. Rory died on April 1, 2012, from severe septic shock. New York enacted Rory's regulations in 2013, requiring hospital sepsis protocols. The protocol came after the child it was written for. Number 11. Martha Mills. Martha Mills's case exposed a different gap, not a silent symptom, but a family with no formal route to force a second look. In 2021, the 13-year-old was admitted to King's College Hospital in London after a bicycle accident caused a pancreatic injury. Over the following days, infection took hold, then sepsis. Her parents kept telling staff she was deteriorating. The warnings were heard, they were documented, but they did not produce the escalation that mattered, an earlier transfer to intensive care. You can see the failure window narrowing in real time. An inquest later concluded Martha would probably have survived if that transfer had happened sooner. Her death led to Martha's rule in the NHS, because bedside alarm needs a door that opens. Number 10. Thomas Eric Duncan. The next failure is a single field in an ER intake form, checked, then buried. Thomas Eric Duncan, a 42-year-old Liberian national, arrives at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas on September 25, 2014, with fever, abdominal pain, headache, and dizziness. The detail that should change everything is recent travel from Liberia during the Ebola outbreak. A nurse records it. The hospital later acknowledges problems in how that travel information was communicated and documented. Duncan is discharged. You can see the mechanism. A warning enters the system, but does not reach the decision. He returns by ambulance on September 28th. On October 8th, he dies from Ebola virus disease, the first person diagnosed with Ebola in the United States. His family later reaches a confidential settlement with the hospital. The system did not miss the warning. It contained it and ignored it.
Number 9. Brian Sinclair. The clock mattered because the problem was treatable. A 45-year-old Indigenous man, a double amputee in a wheelchair, came to Health Sciences Center in Winnipeg on September 19, 2008, with a blocked catheter and urinary trouble. That should have triggered the basic machinery of emergency care: registration, triage, a clinician. Instead, Brian Sinclair was left in the waiting room while staff reportedly read him as intoxicated, homeless, or simply waiting for someone else. Across roughly 34 hours, a catheter problem became complications from a bladder infection. On September 21st, he was found dead. The stark fact is not that no one could save him. It is that he was in an emergency department, and the emergency department did not see him.
Number 8. Naomi Musenga. Naomi Musenga reached the emergency system, and the system answered with contempt. On December 29, 2017, the 22-year-old in Strasbourg, France, called SAMU, the French Emergency Medical Service. She reported severe stomach pain. She said she felt she was going to die. You would expect escalation there. Instead, the operator mocked her, dismissed the warning, and told her to contact another service. Musenga died hours later inside the Strasbourg hospital system. A subsequent IGAS inspection concluded the delayed response directly contributed to her death. When RTL aired the recording in April 2018, the backlash forced SAMU's parent hospital to suspend the operator within days. The warning was recorded, time-stamped, and ignored. That is the failure.
Number 7. Kira Dixon Johnson. Blood in the catheter bag. A distended abdomen. The warning was not hidden. It was visible. On April 12, 2016, 39-year-old Kira Dixon Johnson died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles after a scheduled C-section. After delivery, the signs pointed to internal bleeding, and her husband, Charles Johnson, repeatedly asked staff to act. According to Johnson's lawsuit, hospital staff waited more than 10 hours before returning her to the OR. By then, Kira, a black mother, was dying from massive internal hemorrhage after childbirth. Her death helped drive national scrutiny of black maternal mortality and inspired the For Kira, For Moms campaign. Because the failure was not seeing danger, it was what the system did while danger was still reversible.
Number 6. Savita Halappanavar. On October 24, 2012, at University Hospital Galway, Savita Halappanavar's vital signs were not recorded for a 6-hour stretch. She was 31, a dentist, and 17 weeks pregnant, with a miscarriage already underway after her membranes ruptured. You would expect escalation here. The Health Service Executive Report and the HIQA investigation, both in 2013, found that staff failed to consistently track temperature, pulse, respiration, and blood pressure, and failed to create a care plan treating infection and sepsis as the central danger. Her worsening warning scores were not acted on with the urgency they required. On October 28th, Savita died from septicemia following miscarriage. The protest said, "Never again." The record shows why they had to. Number 5. Amber Nicole Thurman. On August 19, 2022, Amber Nicole Thurman arrived inside Piedmont Henry Hospital with signs no emergency team should miss. Low blood pressure, a high white blood cell count, retained products of conception after a medication abortion complication. She was 28, a medical assistant, and a mother. Reporting by ProPublica found that as her infection advanced, the hospital delayed the dilation and curettage needed to clear the remaining tissue. In a sepsis case, time is not background noise. It is the treatment window closing. Thurman died that day in Stockbridge, Georgia. Her cause of death was described as septic shock and retained products of conception. Georgia's Maternal Mortality Review Committee said it plainly. Her death was preventable. Number 4. Joyce Echaquan. If the last case showed what delay can do, this room shows what contempt sounds like in real time. Joyce Echaquan was 37, an Atikamekw mother of 7, restrained in a bed at Centre Hospitalier de la Naudière in Joliette, Quebec. She was hospitalized with abdominal pain, then showed symptoms of opioid toxicity after a medication error. On September 28, 2020, she started an 18-minute Facebook Live and pleaded for help. Staff spoke over her. One told her she would be better off dead. She died shortly after. A Quebec coroner later found that racism and prejudice contributed to her death. Joyce's principal called for Indigenous patients to receive culturally safe care. The failure was not hidden. Joyce recorded it while it happened. Number 3. Edith Isabel Rodriguez. If the last case was documented by the patient herself, what happens when the proof is lying on the emergency room floor? On May 9, 2007, 43-year-old Los Angeles resident Edith Isabel Rodriguez was at Martin Luther King Jr. Harbor Hospital in Los Angeles County with severe abdominal pain. Witnesses said she collapsed in the waiting room and vomited blood, while staff treated her condition as a possible gallstone attack, not an emergency. Her boyfriend and a bystander called 911 from inside the emergency room, asking for an ambulance to take her elsewhere. Dispatchers refused because she was already at a hospital. Federal findings said staff walked past her and even cleaned around her before gastrointestinal perforation ended her life. Inspectors later found patients there faced immediate jeopardy. And the next case asks an even colder question. What if the waiting room itself becomes the evidence?
Number 2. Esmin Green. At Kings County Hospital Center, the warning was visible on camera. Esmin Elizabeth Green was 49, a Jamaican immigrant and a Brooklyn resident. On June 19, 2008, she was in the hospital's psychiatric emergency department after waiting about 24 hours. She collapsed from a chair onto the waiting room floor. Surveillance video showed staff, security, and others passing nearby. You can see the pattern in its bluntest form. A patient on the floor, a system moving around her. A New York City Department of Investigation report said she lay face down for over an hour before a medical code was called. Staff had falsified chart entries. The hospital's own footage made those lies immediate and verifiable. The camera did what the unit did not. It kept watch.
Number 1. Sachintha Battagodage. Worse still, the evidence here is wet, red, and held up to a phone camera by the patient himself. In South Australia, 23-year-old Sachintha Battagodage was a young husband and father-to-be, coughing and vomiting blood while repeatedly seeking help from emergency departments, including Royal Adelaide Hospital. According to ABC News coverage of a South Australian inquest reported on February 13, 2024, The court heard he was told to see a GP, even as he photographed and filmed the blood to show clinicians exactly what was happening. Later, after an urgent scan at a Glenelg radiology clinic, a pseudoaneurysm ruptured and he could not be saved. His wife, Yolani Pereira, gave evidence. The final warning was not hidden in paperwork. It was recorded in his own hands.